First of all, my native language is Spanish, and I don't have the occasion of practicing my English very often. So if I don't find the word, please help me. Be aware, I will be asking for help. I studied economics at the University of Buenos Aires, but during my time studying economics, the leftists took the country. They were guerrilla times, so it was dangerous to discuss with the professors, because the professors had been appointed by the Peronist government at the time, and they became almost communist, and they were aggressive. They were following the Cuban revolutions, so they were not in favor of free press. So if you were just, for some reasons, arguing with them, you were risking to suffer consequences. So because I was fighting my professors at the university, one day I received a letter from a man called Leonard Reed at the Foundation for Economic Education in New York. I didn't speak any English at that time because I went to a French school. So, but he was inviting me to participate in a seminar at the Foundation for Economic Education in Irvington-on-Hudson in New York. And why he invited me? Because he heard that I was, through one of the students in the class, that I was fighting the communist professors. So he was, I don't know, for some reason, he was shocked by the idea of a student just arguing with communist professors, giving liberal or libertarian arguments. I was not very knowledgeable at that time about economic liberal arguments. So, but that was the case. I went to Irvington-on-Hudson. I participated in the seminar. I learned about Austrian economics. And once I finished my career in Buenos Aires, I accepted a scholarship that was coming from Hans Sennholz, a student of Ludwig von Mises. How many of you have read Human Action? Oh, 4, 5, good. And you know, Austrian School of Economics was started by Karl Menger and later from Eugene von Bauer, and Mises was the third and Hayek the fourth. And when Mises was invited by Leonard Reed to be a professor at NYU, the University of New York, he had some, he was delivering the course at the beginning in German. So some few students spoke at that time German, mixed with English, but at that time, Murray Rothbard was the founder of the libertarian movement. Hans Sennholz was another student. He was a German pilot that was captured by the Americans and sent to New York, to the south, to a prison, sorry, in the south of New York. And but when he was released, he decided to stay and study economics. So later on, he was, by Howard Pugh, he was appointed as the dean of the Department of Economics at small university, Grove City College, near Pittsburgh, 1 hour away from Pittsburgh, in the middle of the Amish. So during the time of Leonard Reed, the president of the Chamber of Commerce and founder of Foundation for Economic Education, he was printing books, Socialism, Human Action. He got in touch with Ayn Rand during those days, and he became a friend of Ayn Rand, and they were having discussions about the importance of teaching economics against the importance of teaching philosophy. Ayn Rand was arguing that philosophy is more important than economics. Why? We are going to give you the reasons later, but in general, that was the kind of discussion they were having. And 2 students from Latin America were just assisting to those lectures. One was Manuel Ayau from Guatemala, and he created the University Francisco Marroquín. The second one was Alberto Venegas Lynch, who started a small center, Center for Studies on Liberty, and issuing a small magazine called Ideas on Liberty. So I was one of the students who was going to that center, buying books, Ideas on Liberty, and trying to understand socialism by Ludwig von Mises, or Planning for Freedom, or all the Ludwig von Mises books in general. So we were three of us at that time. The rest of the youth in Argentina, they were Peronists, they were communists. And in Argentina, we had that feeling of we used to be a rich country. We managed ourselves to destroy the country. Why? Because instead of just keeping the good ideas alive, the ones that attracted capital and immigrants from all around the world, we start to question those ideas, and so finally we gave up. And nationalism, fascism, communism really, little by little, took the Argentinian spirit, soul, and managed themselves to capture the country. The country was not completely destroyed, but almost. If you go to Buenos Aires, you will see a city with remnants of a great civilization, but right now full of slums around and poor people too. But you still can see some good spirit in there. So at that time, some of us, we were just fighting to recovering our countries. Probably in Europe, especially here in Eastern Europe, you also have the same feeling of what you were in the past, what you want to be in the future. Well, let me tell you that ideas matter. The type of country you will build, or the type of societies you will be building in your countries, it depends on the type of thoughts you have, the type of philosophy you develop. So not only for your life, as Stephen was explaining to you, but also for your country, for your societies. So if you understand the importance of the intellectual battle, you please say thank you to the Atlas Society to organize events like this that force you to go into ideas and to give you tools to fight the battle. So I started to study with Sengel's free market economics and Austrian economics in general. I like it. I discovered a lot of truth. But when one day, two people entered into one of my lectures of economics to discuss philosophical issues, one was a German guy, Manfred Schieder, who was he held the book, The Virtue of Selfishness, and he was discussing some of the arguments I was explaining, and with very good arguments, and I was challenged. And really, I thought this man is right. And he convinced me about the importance of philosophy and the importance of objectivism. So I started to study philosophy when I was 30 years old. And of course, you cannot be a full-time student in countries like Argentina. You need to work and you need to feed yourself. So in free time, you study. And the results of those studies are here, and I will share them with you. So what did I learn about philosophy? Very elemental. Let's take a quick look to what you probably all know, but it's important to put economics in the proper context. So let me go back to you with basic questions. Just quick look, 5 minutes. So if you read Philosophy, Who Needs It, you remember probably the case of the astronaut going to explore the universe, and suddenly he is captured by I don't know what. But he goes into a strange planet where the astronaut starts to ask himself questions. I use another example. Let's suppose that the day of your birth, you are with your mom, but for some strange reasons, you got the capacity of speaking. Why? Because your mom was always speaking, and your brain developed in such a way, very strange way, but you know concepts. It's just a hypothetical case. So the day you are born, you are with your mom, and you appear over there, you are being cleaned up, and immediately you look at her, your mom is very surprised to see that her baby is speaking, it has that capacity, but she, after a while, she drinks a whiskey, and she says, okay, you are a little monster, but you are still my baby, so I'm ready to answer your questions. What do you want to know? The first question the baby is going to ask is, cha-chan, where am I, right? And the kind of answer that baby is waiting for is, I'm in Buenos Aires, I'm in Latin America, I'm in the planet Earth, I'm in the solar system, I'm in the Milky Way. Or he's expecting another kind of answer. What? Home? No. What? Go ahead. What are the main characteristics of this universe? What is reality? Where am I? Not from a physical, geographical point of view. What he wants to know is the main characteristics of this universe, right? Tell me something about where I am. Why the baby wants to know the main characteristics of this universe? Because it's a question of death or life, right? The baby starts to, how they say, crawl, and there is a window there. And the mom says, stop it, because in this universe there is a law of gravity, and you're going to be dead, because bigger mass attracts a smaller one, and you will be dead. What is dead? The difference between life and death. You're a life human being, so you need to be careful. Mom, can I swim where the little fishes are swimming? How do you call the place where the what? An aquarium? No, you cannot, because you don't have branchias in Spanish. I don't know the name in English. Okay. Say it again. Fins. If you enter there, you will resist for 60 seconds, but you will be dead. So you need to respect your nature. And I'm watching Animal Planet, and the ostrich is eating stones. Can I do the same? No, because you don't have two stomachs to digest those stones. You will be dead with a peritonitis in 2 minutes. So you will not resist that pressure, right? So you need to respect your nature. And which is my nature? My nature, your nature is, let's take a look at you. Come here. Let's make some theatrical. She's coming from Mars. Let's take a look to her. What are the instruments she has to relate to the world? You know them, right? Which are they? Which are they? Say it. Eyes, ears, taste, what else? Smell and touch, right? You have 2 ears, 2 eyes, 1 mouth. The nature is telling you, be prudent, listen, and take a look, and be cautious when you speak, right? And all that information is being sent to here, the center of processing, integrating by your senses. You are all connected. Your body's all connected, right? Move your finger over there. Can you feel your media? Your sock? Yeah, because you are connected. All that information is coming here. You're receiving information. You're processing information. And once you discover that information, enter into your mind through concepts. The way the human brain reason does that is fantastic. And if you read Introduction to Objectivist Epistemology and you see how we form concepts, you really get excited. And you ask yourself, how could humanity wait until the 20th century to discover the way we organize our concepts in our minds, right? This is very, very, thank you very much. This is very, very amazing. And to discover the process and to understand the connection between your concepts here and reality over there is something that helps you to understand how your brain works. So, okay, Mom, reality is over there, and I can interpret reality through my senses, but what kind of reality is that? Is that a reality governed by laws, or is a reality, is a flux? It's a kind of magma where nothing can be really understood by a human mind. So in these conditions, Mom has one possible answer. If you really are going to develop an attitude, an entrepreneurial attitude towards life, if you are going to be the master of your own destiny, you really need to trust your brain to deal with reality. And you need to exercise. You are potentially rational, but you need to exercise that power. You need to focus. You need to learn. So I think that nature, to be commanded, needs first to be obeyed. You are a good student, lady. Nature, to be commanded, needs to be obeyed. So let us discover those laws, and once we understand them, let's go for it. Let's try to govern. Let's try to send a ship to the moon. Let's try to operate an engine. Let's try to discover electricity and how to utilize medicines for the viruses. So we all can do that. So the second hypothesis, the idea that you cannot learn reality, is dangerous, because you become what kind of human being? You need somebody to tell you how to live. Because if you don't trust your brain, at least you don't have the courage to go for it, to try, to take risks. So somebody else needs to tell you what to do, how to behave. And this is not just a theory. You saw this in Europe. You saw this in China, and you see this in Russia. They are obeying. Why? Because the concept, the idea of that you are the master of your own destiny, and the idea of the American idea of go for it. Impossible is nothing. Just do it. What we were teaching a junior achievement to the kids. Just go and do it. And if you fail, it doesn't matter. Take risks. Nobody's stopping you from trying 3, 4, 5 times. If you keep trying and you correct the mistakes, the next one you will not fail. You will be successful. So, Mom, reality is there, and I have this power to deal with reality. Of course, I'm not omniscient. I can make mistakes. I can go wrong, but I can discover beautiful things, and I can improve the conditions of my life. So next question is, what should I do to live my life? In order to do that, you need, again, to face with different alternatives. One of them is, well, when I speak to my students, secondary students, in high school, I tell them to ask me questions. One of the first questions they ask is, what is the purpose of my life being here on earth? And my answer is, have you been sent by the Queen of England? Do you have a secret mission on the earth? What is the purpose of lions being here? Which is the purpose of a giraffe being here? They are here to live their lives, to find the opposite sex, to raise a family, to eat the other species, or whatever. So what is the purpose of you being here? To live your life as a rational human being, as a potential human being. You need to find your own way. You need to do introspection. You need to discover things that you like. But of course, and you need to develop all the virtues of character that were mentioned here before. You need to be productive. You need to develop your own self-esteem. You need to be a proud person. You need to be independent. You need to develop integrity. All these virtues that were mentioned before. So, what is the idea? Go for it. Don't complain if you fail. Keep going. Don't compare yourself with some other people. If you feel envy, copy instead of attacking the person you are admiring. Instead of just attacking, copy. Try to observe which are the virtues you admire and try to find a way to do it yourself for your own career, for your own life. Next question is, well, if the purpose of my life is my own life, being happy, and how do I relate with other people? And the way I relate with other people is like lions with zebras. No. Why not? Because the way we function as human beings is different. We have our tool of survival is our mind, right? So rationality is the clue. And because we are rational animals, we need to allow people to think for themselves, to take decisions for themselves, and to assume the cost and the cost of taking those decisions. So the way people need to deal with each other is a contractual basis, is seduction. If you make me feel good, I will make you feel good, and not rape. If you don't make me feel good, I will make you feel bad. So it's very important to understand that the way people relate with each other should be contractual, not by force. Force, if one of us starts using force to get a goal and attack another person, we know what we do with that person. We put under, that person goes to prison. Like the animals, we put them in a jaula. I don't know how you say that, but a cage. We put them in a cage. So, contractual activities, that's a way we interact with each other. So, just to enter into economic issues, I don't know if you can read that, but this is the basic of first of all, why do we like to live in society? Because we get what living together? 2 to 3 things. Could you enumerate 1 or 2?
Specialization.
What?
Specialization.
Specialization, division of labor. What else? Protection. Excuse me?
Security, protection.
Well, knowledge, right? Love, friendship, division of labor, and we interact, we trade with each other. That's why we like to live in society. So, but we choose to live in a society. If they take you to Cuba or to Venezuela now, would you like to stay there under Maduro or under Díaz-Canel? Probably not, because you will be in trouble just for the fact of giving your opinion or just disagreeing with the government. So man is a social animal whose identity and purpose derive from the group? Of course not. So we are rational animals who we choose to live in society and for our own benefit. And the purpose of society, facilitate exchange of ideas, protection of individual rights, trade, and we are not asking to subordinate the individual to the common good or to the tribe. That's incorrect. When somebody's asking you that, he's wrong. And in terms of values, we get knowledge, culture, friendship, sharing in contractual societies. In contrast, what the other people are giving us is identity in the group, security in exchange for obedience, sense of belonging as the highest value. When you see people defending Palestine, or the Hamas, or the Hezbollah, or the different terrorist groups around the world, what you see is that. Is identity. Why are they feeling attracted? Identity in the group, security in exchange for obedience, sense of belonging as the highest value. And relationship between individual and society, are we an end in ourselves? Do really matters our happiness, or the individual exists as a means to ends of the group, the state or tradition? Napoleon was telling the French, go and fight against the Austrians. But Mr. Napoleon, the Austrians are there with their cannons, they are going to kill me. It doesn't matter, your life belongs to France. You need to sacrifice yourself for the good of your country. Galtieri in the Falklands, the president of Argentina. The British are coming with their ships. Because of nationalistic feelings, we are attacking the islands, and those farmers that have been there for 130 years, you are just sending us to fight the British with better ships and better planes. They are going to kill us. You need to sacrifice yourself for the common good of Argentina. Those islands are ours from a geographic point of view. Nationalistic feelings. The idea of your life belongs to the tribe. In objectivism, man is not a social animal. He is a contractual animal. But in the collectivist societies, you need to sacrifice yourself. Yeah, you must give priority to the group. It's good for the Aryan people to kill Jews, so you need to give priority to the group. You need to sacrifice those people that are not part of the society. Expected results, here you have. You have the United States, and you have all the capitalistic countries growing up fast, free, innovative, prosperous civilization against stagnation, coercion, and loss of individual creativity. So, from an economic point of view, it's easy to see that. If you compare Miami with La Habana, if you compare South Korea with North Korea, if you compare East Germany with West Germany, you see the difference from an economic point of view. It's very easy. But the question is, why, if the evidence supports this idea of capitalism against socialism, why people are still fighting in favor of socialism? It's a matter of, it's a discussion of moral issues, of morality. But it's not part of my lecture today to speak about morality. But if you want to fight for your society, you need to speak in moral terms. Milei won the election in Argentina, Javier Milei, our current president, he spoke in moral terms, making mistakes and mixing arguments, but he gave that moral speech. That's why he won the election. Once he started to change and give economic arguments, he lost the last internal election. So you are not going to convince people with economic arguments, but you need them to defend yourself from attacks, unjust attacks. That's why I'm going to give you some economic arguments now and tomorrow. So, let me see if I have here. So, how do we relate these philosophical arguments with some economic arguments? Well, if you read about the history of economic thought, what you will see is that at the beginning, the discussions were about just trade or unjust trade. Is this trade being fair? The goods that are being exchanged, are we just in front of a fair transaction, or somebody's taking advantage from somebody else? So it was a moral aspect that was being discussed to see if the trade was being just or unjust. And that's why the main discussions of that time were about value. What is behind this exchange? They are exchanging goods of similar value or different value. Are you just taking advantage of him because you are giving him a horse and he's giving you a pair of glasses? Somebody is just doing something wrong here. So they started to discuss different explanations for value, right? And the main explanations were an item is more valuable because of what? Because inside that specific good, you have more what? Labor. And the most famous economists that developed the theory of labor were Adam Smith and, before Karl Marx, David Ricardo. Karl Marx took the same theory of value, the labor theory of value, but he took that theory from them, and just instead of just trying to explain it the way they did it, Smith and Ricardo, he put emphasis in the idea of what he called socially, trabajo socialmente necesario. The socially work, I don't know how to translate that, but what he was saying is that the value of an item of a specific good depends on what? Of the quantity of hours devoted to build that item, right? So, discussing value, they were discussing different theories. The first one was this idea of labor. The value and the price of an item depends on the quantity of hours you are devoting to build that item. Another cost of production. If you keep adding cost of production, labor, raw materials, in general, what you will have is one specific value, and that's the way you explain that. You have another way to do it is, well, maybe value is related to scarcity. If something is scarce, probably it will have more value. But the problem with scarcity is what? That there are some scarce things that they don't have any value. Rotten eggs are scarce. You don't find them anywhere, or very, very little, but they don't have any value. Old cards that are not just antiques, but old, they don't have any value in the market. So scarcity is not an attribute to elevate the value and the price of an item. Utility, air is very, very important for us. Water is very important for us. It's not too expensive because it's abundant, right? So, and what's wrong with labor? With the idea of just the items, the value and the price of an item depends on the quantity of hours invested in building that item. What's wrong with it? because you probably know that some items you can invest. I can paint a painting here with the most important, with the most beautiful raw materials and paintings, and it's not going to worth nothing. It's not going to really have any value because I'm not a good artist compared with a good artist painting in 10 minutes a fantastic obra de arte. Are you following me? Yeah? Good. So, this idea of utility and scarcity finally gave up to what is the proper theory of value that was discovered in 1870 by 3 different economists. The most important one, according to me, is the founder of the Austrian School of Economics, Karl Menger, who developed the theory of marginal utility. He was saying that the value of an item depends on what? On 2 different items. Those are the components of the theory of value. What is giving value to a good or to a merchandise? Demand and supply, but just enter into demand and supply and find the 2 basic elements of the theory of value. Those are, I mentioned them separately, but they need to be together to be a good explanation of value. Utility and utility and scarcity. Utilidad y escasez. I would love to give this speech in Spanish. It would be so much better. Okay. In Spanish, I'm good. My grammar is fantastic. And my vocabulary is very large. In English, it's very painful. Okay, let's keep going. Utility and scarcity together. And Karl Menger gives a very good example on his book, Principles of Economics, explaining the attitude of a farmer that in the middle of rain forest, big rains, he's isolated and he has 5 different bags of wheat. And the way he starts to consider them, just because he's going to be isolated for the next 3 months, is fantastic. This first bag, I'm going to eat from this wheat. This second bag is just for an emergency. The third bag is for, I will give this wheat to the chickens because I want to have a diverse diet. The fourth bag is for, I don't know, let me think. The fourth bag is for some birds that are, no, during the winter I will be very isolated and so I will distillate some alcohol from this wheat. And the fifth bag is to feed some birds that are around. I'm so isolated that I like to attract birds to speak with them. So, if I ask you, which is the value of these 5 bags of wheat, the answer is, the value is given by the last one. Because in my mind, this is very important. I'm going to eat it. This also I'm going to eat it. The third is to have the different diet. The fourth is for the alcohol. The fifth is for the birds. Somebody comes to my cabin and knocks the door. What are you doing here in the middle of the forest? Well, I'm very interested in exchanging with you, trading with you. But what do you offer? Well, you are so isolated. I want to buy a bag of wheat from you. What are you offering in exchange? Well, a tape recorder. Well, let me think about it. So I go to my room, I drink a mate, and I say, okay, what I prefer? I prefer what? I'm comparing what? The company of the birds against the tape recorder. So maybe I decide to make the trade. If I value more what is being offered to me than what I'm just giving up, I make the trade. If not, not. So it is important, the marginal utility law, because that's the way you learn about supply and demand. In your mind, if you are surrounded by abundance, if you are full of water, you don't care about wasting water. But if you are in the Sahara, in the middle of the Sahara, you really take care of water because it's a vital necessity for you. So scarcity is very important, but also it's very important how the utility of the good analyzing by your brain. So you have the explanation of value there. Two factors combined, utility and scarcity, and it's very important. They destroy the theory of labor, the labor theory of value. So all the plus value, the theory of exploitation, they go down because of this new law discovered by Carl Menger, Gibbons and Walras too, but they made some mistakes in the discovery of the marginal utility law. So now we have the law of supply and demand. If goods are abundant, the price and the value and the price will go up or down? Down. If they are scarce, the value and the price will go up. And what about supply? If the supply is high, the price will go down. The supply is low, the price will go up, okay? You have that law that is very important. So the price system is built on the understanding of the law of supply and demand, on the marginal utility law. But you tell me, but so basic, but the Russians implemented the system without prices because they didn't understand the meaning of prices. But for you to understand the meaning of prices, you need to understand what is behind them, theory of value. You need to understand the marginal utility law. You need to understand supply and demand. What are prices? What are prices? Where do they come from?
Indicators of values.
They come from your mind. All of us are all the time valuing different items. We are looking at different items, and we say, I like this, I don't like that. Let me give you an example. The Russians were beating the Americans in just going to the space. And Yuri Gagarin, do you remember Yuri Gagarin, was the first man in what? Circumvaling the Earth. So the Americans were upset with that fact because they were losing the career, the spatial career. So they, as they always say, they always do, they sent a journalist to the Yuri Gagarin house. He knocked the door. You know this story or not? Hello, may I speak with your father? Sorry, a small guy answered the door. And he said, my father went to make 3 circumvallations of the Earth and will be back in 4 hours. Wow, amazing. Well, can I wait for your father to come back? Yes, you can wait, but may I speak with your mom in meantime? And so I will ask her some questions. Sorry, but my mom went to the line of the meat and she will be back in 8 hours. What is going on? Well, for the Russians, it was important what? to win the spatial career. But what about a lady who had a date and she needed some painting for her eyes? Eyebrow, how do you call that? Okay. That's not important. She feels insecure. She doesn't have rouge for her lips. She wants to be attractive. But she wants a pair of jeans. But Mao tells you, no, you all have to wear gray suits. You all have to share 3 families in a house. But I don't like to share the bathroom with that fat man over there and with that family is always shouting. And you have a big house, you need to share the house and the kitchen or whatever. So your needs are not important. You are for the group, for the beauty of the nation. So you need to obey. So we are the ones who are just distributing the resources. To whom? To the ones that are being selected by the Politburo. So the resources belong to the group, collectivized economy. So what you see is, what is the price system? The price system is respect for people. But people do not deserve respect. They choose chiclets. They choose pornography. They choose drugs. They choose not essential items. We know what they need to build, what we need to build a good society. We need to tell people, yes, people make mistakes, and people drink whiskey, but maybe that guy had a tough day, and he's very nervous, and he needs a whiskey, and he needs to watch Messi on the TV. So why is Messi making so much money and the philosophers are making very little? Because when Messi kicks the ball, 10 million people are watching and drinking a beer and relaxing after a hard day. So the president of Barcelona knows that when Messi is playing, 10 million people are watching, so he sells commercials. And because everybody's watching, and the TV rights are being expensive. So the price system is connecting all these brain activities and value activities by each citizen. Everyone is being respected. I like Rachmaninoff. I like Chopin. But she likes Nina Hagen, and she likes Madonna. So probably I will have to pay more for the Rachmaninoff item than for the Nina Hagen or Madonna or whatever. But there is market for everyone. Everybody is being respected. Of course, if you are part of the popular items, probably they will be cheaper. There will be more people just asking for that. So the price system, they are connections, energy in movement. They are moving all the time. And if you put your finger in the middle of that electricity, you will be executed. Somebody's going to be wrong. The economy will not producing the items desired by people. Stop? Well, I arrived to prices. I have 1 hour and a half to teach you monopoly items, money and banking, central banks, interest rates, trade, labor issues, and fiscal policies. And final words on the relationship between objectivism. Thank you very much.
Thank you.